Woke people were once considered a minority, but they've exploded onto the scene like a cultural atomic bomb. These days, it feels like you can't turn around without bumping into someone waving the woke flag. They've gone from being the underdogs to running the show, calling the shots in everything from sports to your kid's classroom. But not everyone is buying what the woke crowd is selling. We will see 5 such straight-talking truth bombers armed with nothing but facts and common sense. This is when delusional woke people get owned instantly. Part 7. Starting with the time when Senator Rand Paul, a medical doctor, confronted Rachel Levine about transgender medicine and its usage on children. But Levine doesn't give straight answers. We've got Senator Paul, armed with his medical expertise and a no-nonsense attitude. On the other, Rachel Levine, dodging questions like Neo in the Matrix. You'd think a simple yes or no would suffice, but apparently not in the world of woke politics. Listen closely.
Dr. Levine, do you believe that minors are capable of making such a life-changing decision as changing one's sex?
Well, Senator, thank you for your interest in this question. Transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field with robust research and standards of care that have been developed. And if I am fortunate enough to be confirmed as the Assistant Secretary of Health, I would look forward to working with you and your office and coming to your office and discussing the particulars of the standards of care for transgender medicine.
The specific question was about minors. Let's be a little more specific since you evaded the question. Do you support the government intervening to override the parent's consent to give a child puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and/or amputation surgery of breasts and genitalia? You have said that you're willing to accelerate the protocols for street kids. I'm alarmed that poor kids with no parents who are homeless and distraught, you would just go through this and allow that to happen to a minor. I would hope that you would have compassion for Kira Bell, who's a 23-year-old girl who was confused with her identity. At 14, she read on the internet about something about transsexual. She thought, well, maybe that's what I am. She ended up getting these puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones. She had her breast amputated. But here's what ultimately she says now. And this is a very insightful decision from someone who made a mistake but was led to believe this was a good thing by the medical community. I made a brash decision as a teenager, as a lot of teenagers do, trying to find confidence and happiness, except now the rest of my life will be negatively affected, she said, adding that the medicalized gender transitioning was a very temporary, superficial fix for a very complex identity issue. What I'm alarmed at is that you're not willing to say absolutely minors shouldn't be making decisions to amputate their breast or to amputate their genitalia. For most of our history, we believe that minors don't have full rights and the parents need to be involved. So I'm alarmed that you won't say with certainty that minors should not have the ability to make the decision to take hormones that will affect them for the rest of their life. Will you make a more firm decision on whether or not minors should be involved in these decisions?
Senator, transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field, and if confirmed to the position of Assistant Secretary of Health, I would certainly be pleased to come to your office and talk with you and your staff about the standards of care and the complexity of this field.
Let it go into the record that the witness refused to answer the question.
In the entire clip, Senator Paul presented clear facts, even supporting them with examples, while Levine avoided giving direct answers. Instead, Levine deflected by calling transgender medicine a complex issue, suggesting they discuss it later. It's clear that when someone avoids answering such a straightforward question, they know they're in the wrong. But wait, because Paul isn't done.
The question is a very specific one. Should minors be making these momentous decisions? For most of the history of medicine, we wouldn't let you have a cut sewn up in the ER. But you're willing to let a minor take things that prevent their puberty, and you think they get that back? You give a woman testosterone enough that she grows a beard, you think she's going to go back looking like a woman when you stop the testosterone? You have permanently changed them. Infertility is another problem. None of these drugs have been approved for this. They're all being used off-label. I find it ironic that the left that went nuts over hydroxychloroquine being used possibly for COVID are not alarmed that these hormones are being used off-label. There's no long-term studies. We don't know what happens to them. We do know that there are dozens and dozens of people who've been through this who regret that this happened and a permanent change happened to them. And, you know, if you've ever been around children, 14-year-olds can't make this decision. In the gender dysphoria clinic in England, 10% of the kids are between the ages of 3 and 10. We should be outraged that someone's talking to a 3-year-old about changing their sex. I can't vote for you if you can't.
Thank you so much, Senator Paul.
It's ridiculous how both are doctors, yet their approaches couldn't be more different. One is committed to safeguard children by opposing the use of unauthorized transgender medicines, prioritizing their safety above all. Meanwhile, the other seems driven by profit, capitalizing on this woke movement, regardless of the potential consequences that these children will face in their adulthood. But Levine wasn't the only one challenged on banning gender-affirming care for children. When a college student confronted Matt Walsh on the same issue, even he had to back down.
Why in your movies and your discussions do you selectively ignore and misrepresent the recent burgeoning medical and behavioral literature that demonstrates that gender-affirming care and similar medical interventions demonstrate consistent improvements to mental health, suicidality, and general well-being?
Which study are those?
There are probably like 30 studies by this point, all produced in the last like 10 years or so. Anybody can look them up on...
Okay, well just, here's the problem. Here's the problem. I'm not impressed by just you saying a study,
No,
okay? Because,
studies.
fine, well there could be 100 studies, there could be 1,000
read
studies.
them.
Great, yeah, and I have read them, have you?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So I'll give you one example. I don't know if you can give me any examples, but I'll give you one example of a recent study and this was just in the headlines. It said that it proved that double mastectomies for minor girls improves their well-being. And this was a study, and it was proven, peer-reviewed. Then you read how they actually conducted this study, and you find out that they interviewed a very small selection of girls in one region of the country, all from the same socioeconomic background, and they did their follow-up, I think it was 3 months later. And based on a follow-up a few months later, they've determined that, oh yeah, it improves well-being. You see the problem here? Now,
There are many, but this is the exception to the rule. Many of
I don't
these
think it is.
use observational data with various follow-up from like 6 months to 5 years to 10 years, and they don't demonstrate what you claim.
Well, you can say the word study, but what I'm saying is when you
look them up.
Okay, great, great.
You can Google them.
Yeah, and so can you. It sounds like you haven't.
I've done it a good bit.
Oh, you've done it a good bit. Okay, all right. Well, I just gave you an...
Transgender health, PubMed, NIH, gender-affirming care, and I mean it's...
Okay, let me ask you this.
This guy's argument falls apart very quickly, as he provides no real evidence to support his claims. It's the responsibility of the person making the claim to present proof, and simply telling others to Google it isn't a valid argument. Tossing around the word study without specifics is just lazy and weak. But Matt Walsh calmly dismantles Jacob's entire argument, methodically exposing the flaws in his vague responses about gender-affirming care for children. Just watch how effortlessly Matt takes down his points.
Jacob, here's what I know. If you want to even begin to claim that a study has proven that castrating and sterilizing little boys helps them in the long run, then you would need to have a large sample size of children who've gone through these procedures, and we've checked back with them in adulthood to see how they're doing. Those studies do not exist. They can't exist because we weren't doing this to kids at anywhere near this scale even 5 years ago, let alone 10 years ago. What that tells us, Jacob, is that the kids we have right now, they are the sample. Okay, they are the experiment. We are experimenting on children right now.
That's just demonstrably, you can easily demonstrate that that's not the case.
And are you, Jacob, are you able to just use your common sense as well? I mean, you can rely on studies, and you could just shout the word study at me and then start.
No, I'm not.
You can start. Let me finish. Let me finish.
Sorry.
You can shout about studies and list random medical organizations. That doesn't impress me. There was a time when every medical organization would have told you that, you know, bloodletting is the way to cure every disease.
Sure.
There was a time when every medical organization told you that the vaccine, you know, stopped transmission. So, but here's what I want to know. Are we able to just use common sense as well, and based on common sense, determine that it is certainly not a good idea to sterilize and castrate children and remove body parts from children before they are possibly old enough to consent to those procedures. Don't we know that just based on basic moral decency and common sense?
Sure, but you're trying to make causal statements about the impacts of medical interventions. You need to demonstrate that with science, and I'm not mentioning, and I'm not like making an ethos argument. Oh, like look at this organization. I'm saying that there are like very rigorous ways to substantiate your claims, and the people that are spending lots of time are doing that, and they come to conclusions that are very different from the ones that you say. I'm not making an appeal to ethos. Anybody can look up these studies and just see how they're done.
Right, and these are also studies being done by the people who it just so happens are profiting from the procedures that they say work, which is really interesting. But
do you think your professors are getting paid by like some?
Yeah, a lot of them are.
Do you think there's somebody like paying your professors for? I think you should.
How do you think it works, Jacob?
Because that's very unrealistic.
Do you think they're not being paid?
No.
They ain't doing this for free, I'll tell you that.
No. They're definitely being paid. But like, if there's some shady organization paying them, like, I'm sorry, that's sort of silly. Like, talk with your professors. That's like sort of silly.
Okay. Let me at least
How
ask.
do you know anything? There's always some conspiracy.
I think you can know things without asking for permission sometimes from professors to say that you know them.
No, I'm just saying.
And one of those things that you can know is that it's never okay to castrate a child. I mean, I don't need. Jacob, you.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay. All right. Good conversation.
Matt Walsh's responses to that guy was outstanding. He dropped truth bombs one after another, dismantling every point Jacob tried to make. With each well-articulated argument, Walsh left him scrambling for a response, but there was no escaping the facts. As the debate progressed, it became clear that Jacob had no solid ground to stand on, and ultimately, he was left with no choice but to leave in defeat. But what happens when a Wookiee tries to impose his beliefs on TV presenters? Will they hold back because it's live? This situation unfolded when a UK news channel invited a guest to debate the Nike advertisement promoting bras for women. The controversy, it featured a trans woman, and these TV presenters are furious about the whole thing.
Listen to me. So it is, whereas this person is a 26-year-old person, and they are trying to,
rich.
Well, rich. Well, they might be doing very well.
Are you about to make us supposedly feel sorry for this person?
No, what I'm saying, this is a trans person wearing leggings. Everybody needs to calm the hell down.
Sam, have you watched it?
Yes, of course I've watched all of it.
It's not a trans person wearing leggings. It is a trans person mimicking, caricaturing a woman.
That's what she does in her videos.
Promoting bras, sports bras for women.
And as a woman, I find it so disrespectful, Sam. I find it so why are you sticking up?
How is it disrespectful? She has 12 million followers, most of who are women who will buy this because she's been wearing it. That's what Nike see. They see 12 million followers, and they want all she does is talk about positivity and fun and laughter, and that's what Nike want to get into.
It's raising women.
It's not raising women.
He should know that it's exactly what this woke agenda is doing by trying to strip away rights from biological women. But these presenters are not going to let him off the hook that easily, because when this guest makes an unimaginable statement, it ignites a firestorm in the heated debate, leading to a moment where they both completely humiliate him in front of everyone watching the show.
And that's what Nike want to get into.
It's raising women.
It's not raising women.
It is.
The rest of Nike's Instagram feed are all cis white women,